And now we move to the regular board meeting. All right, this is the agenda for the regular board meeting, Tuesday, October the 11th, 2022. Any item on this agenda is open for discussion and possible action. First order of business we like to do is the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you would stand and join me, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Any item that's on this agenda is open for discussion, remember, and possible action. The order or deletion of any item on this agenda is subject to modification at this board meeting. The board may vote to recess into an executive session for the purpose of obtaining legal advice from the county attorney on any matter listed on the agenda pursuant to ARS 38-431.03A3. We begin again with the roll call. District 1?
Crosby is here.
District 2, Supervisor English is present. District 3?
Supervisor Judd is present.
We have a complete board. Members of the public may attend this meeting by Microsoft Teams computer or mobile app, or by phone by calling 602-609-7513 or 888-680-6714, conference ID 897-828-705#. If you have trouble accessing this meeting remotely, call 520-432-9200 for direction. The board may permit public comment during the discussion of any item on this agenda. To speak to an agenda item or to the call to the public, complete and return the speaker request form to the clerk of the board prior to the start of the meeting. You may notice that some of the attachments may be updated after the agenda is published, and this means that presentation materials displayed at the board meeting may differ slightly from the attached version. We begin with the call to the public. It looks as though we have all of these are just called to the public instead of addressing agenda items. Okay, so maybe we need to go over the rules a little on the call to the public. Of course, we want to hear you, but you are limited in time. We have a 3-minute limit for each person in call to the public. And with this many people asking to speak at the call to the public, I'm going to read off 5 names. And if you would come and stand in order of those names so that it's easy to transition from one to the next one. Save time for everyone instead of you calling and then trying to come from the back of the room. You will give us your name and address and whatever you wish to say for those 3 minutes. Okay, so the first 5 that we're going to call are Joan Murphy, Jeff Sturgis, Laura Jeanette Davey, Fernando Jack Dona, and Jenny Walston. Are all of those people not here? Okay. I will begin with Joan Murphy.
I am Joan Murphy. I live in Sierra Vista. You want my full address?
Yes.
1132 Quail Hollow Drive, Sierra Vista, 85635. And I can do.
Yes, you may be
okay.
down.
All right. I'm extremely upset over the mere suggestion of doing a hand count of our Cochise County votes. We have a wonderful system in place that has had the test of time and not failed us. Furthermore, the system is checked prior to each election and a sample hand count is done post-election. I even have a copy of a post from the private online neighborhood website in which our own Sierra Vista mayoral candidate, Rachel Gray, lauded the successful passing of Cochise County and 2 other counties that recently underwent system testing this month. I not only reject your idea of hand counting as ludicrous and severely ill-timed, but I also sincerely question your reason for even coming up with the idea. I suppose some of that comes from Ms. Judd having attended the January 6th insurrection and from the influence of the Cochise County Republican chair, Robert Montgomery, who was one of the fake electors in the most recent election. Even after proof of his part in that scheme was publicly aired on the internet, you have allowed him to maintain his position on planning and zoning, and moreover, had him approved to serve in the Palominas Fire District. Unbelievable. I further suspect the reason for having a work session after your normal meeting in which the public may only attend but not take part is a way of furthering your goal of disenfranchising your constituency. I am not pleased, and I hope this travesty gets fully investigated.
Sturgis?
My name is Jeff Sturgis. I live at 1380 East Loma Lane in Sierra Vista. Is it safe or patriotic to vote for any Republican this election? Think about it. There is a meeting today initiated by Supervisor Judd and Crosby to discuss changing the way our election is conducted in Cochise County 4 weeks before the election. What reasons are given for this change? Supervisor Judd claims, quote, "It has been proposed by citizens that it might be a good time to check our methods." Who are these citizens? Can she show us a list? Supervisor Crosby just as vaguely claims that it is widely known that many voters lack confidence in the voting system. Can he show us a list? The fact is that there has been no official allegations of voting fraud in Cochise County. The word that should come to our minds is fake. This is not a concern about fraud. It is a scheme to inject chaos into what is an orderly and fair process. Whether that is a crime of election interference or not, I do not know, but it surely smells like one. If the supervisors were truly concerned about the election integrity, the focus would not be on fake, manufactured, and illogical claims of possible fraud in the system, but upon the Cochise County Republican Committee, whose chair, Robert Montgomery, was one of Arizona's 11 fake electors who attempted to make over 10,000 votes of Arizona's meaningless by signing a fake certificate claiming that Trump had won the election in our state. It was Supervisors Judd and Crosby who voted to appoint this fake elector to the Palominas Fire District Board. It was Supervisor Crosby who appointed fake elector Robert Montgomery to the Cochise County Planning and Zoning Commission. All is fake here. When over 60% of Republicans support the big lie that Trump won the presidential election without a shred of evidence, is it any wonder that our county Republicans are comfortable with a fake elector and fake reasons to disrupt the election process? That is the real election fraud. Is voting for any Republican this election safe or patriotic? Thank you.
Next speaker, Laura Jeanette Davy. Not available. Fernando Jack Dona. If I could, while he's getting ready, we'll give the next 5 people a chance to come forward. That's Randall Limba, Jennifer Duckman, I believe. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Andrew Pozanansky, and Joseph Patterson. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Dillon.
Madam Chair, members of the board, thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Fernando J. Donna. I reside at 3856 Puerto Place, Sierra Vista, Arizona, 85650. I'm a retired Master Sergeant, United States Army. Fellow Americans, I'm here to speak on the fundamental right of we the people, the governed, and our consent to be governed, and the problem of the loss of confidence that citizens have in the voting system. Our voice is heard via the sacred right of citizens to vote, all citizens, not Democrat, not Republican, all citizens. That is how we exercise our freedom within the framework of a constitutional republic. For 23 months, the 45th President of the United States has stated a fraudulent election took place. He has endorsed the mathematical analysis of a highly decorated, honorably separated, former military intelligence professional whom I know personally and served at the same unit on Fort Huachuca. That would be Captain Seth Keshel. This captain has recorded a video stating that over 4,000 fraudulent votes were counted here in Cochise County, Arizona, for the 2020 election. This video has circulated online around the world. I notified state, county, and city officials of this video. I only received 2 replies from Supervisor Judd and Supervisor Crosby. No other replies. In the video, the captain states that the only way to prove him wrong is to open up the books and do a full recount. No one's done that. No one. Shouldn't our elected leaders be concerned about the damage to public trust the 45th president and his surrogates are doing to our voting system? This damage via lack of trust in the voting system gets worse the longer it goes unaddressed. All the public has heard is it's a big lie. Unelected bureaucrats, one in particular in this county, makes it a point of ridiculing the voters on the other side. We should all come together, Democrat and Republican, and put the lie to the 45th president and his surrogates. Let our county be the first to prove that it is all one big lie. Let's do it. Let's prove he's a liar. Do the hand count and prove that our voting system is safe and secure. Or the 45th president is right and there is massive voter fraud and a coup d'etat did take place. If this is the case, we are all in very dire straits. My 90-year-old father escaped a country that went communist, Nicaragua, and I believe that we are on the pathway. It's Marxism. We need to get this right as Americans. It's not a Republican issue. It's not a Democrat issue. We have to restore faith in the voting system. Thank you.
Next. Would you please refrain from public comment? That isn't appropriate. Jenny Walston was asked to speak next. Jenny Walston, okay. There was no representation here that she was going to be on the phone. Okay, the next person is Randall.
Good morning, Randall Limbach, 3099 St. Andrews Drive, Sierra Vista, 85650. I want to thank each of you for the opportunity to speak this morning. I'm here to request the board consider adding to our election process a 100% hand count of all verified ballots. I've enjoyed working the polls during the last 2 election cycles and believe it's an important civic duty. And as far as I'm concerned, it's as important as voting itself. In conjunction with working the polls, I've also been grateful to have participated in the partial hand count following those elections. Lisa Mara provided quality training. Her staff were knowledgeable, resulting in an accurate hand counting process. For me, working side by side with people of all political persuasions was refreshing. I was impressed with the overall level of professionalism and common goal of 100% accuracy. The hand count process provided me a degree of confidence in our election process, and I believe it has value. However, I also believe a comprehensive hand count of verified ballots at the conclusion of our election process would serve to provide all voters of Cochise County heightened confidence in our elections. In recent years, many states and counties across our nation have changed critical components of their voting systems and procedures, some unconstitutionally and without approval of their legislators. Remember, it was only in March of this year when our Republican and Democrat representatives unanimously passed House Bill 2839, effectively stripping frontline political representation of every precinct within the state of Arizona. Collectively, these behind-the-scenes schemes and changes in voting systems and structures have caused many Americans to legitimately question the motives of state and local officials, as well as the security of their election processes and their individual vote. Many counties across the United States have successfully performed 100% hand counting of ballots with no difficulties. As far as expense is concerned, I've never accepted any payment from Cochise County for my work with polling or hand counting, nor would I request to expect payment for this proposed full hand count. In fact, I believe most citizens wanting a full hand count would do so voluntarily. And I thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Jim, I've asked you not to make those kind of motions. Would you please? Next speaker is Jennifer. Duffway? Gutman.
Before I speak, I do have a question about how the meetings are conducted. Is it allowed that people boo and shout when people are speaking? I'm asking, is that okay?
We have, if you came early, you'd have seen on the screen that we asked that people not show comments. But again, it's personal control that we're asking for. So would you begin, Jennifer?
Yes. My name is Jennifer Druckman. I live at 1313 West Cameo Street in Bisbee. I have no idea why the Board of Supervisors would want to consider something as archaic as hand counting ballots. It's like saying we don't trust our emails or we need to stop driving cars. But then I heard a radio show on Sunday which made it clearer and much more sinister than I think we realize. Steve Bannon and Dan Schultz are pushing a plan called the precinct strategy. Dan Schultz and the MAGAs in Arizona don't believe that Republicans did enough to keep Donald Trump in office, despite the ridiculous expensive multiple recounts they conducted, which found actually that Joe Biden won by even more votes than originally thought. They want to mobilize an army of Trumpsters at the lowest level to infiltrate, intimidate, and take over the Republican Party. They actually believe all the Stop the Steal conspiracy theories. The precinct strategy is a plan to take over the Republican Party from the ground up so that they can put the right people in. And hand counting ballots is one part of the plan. Also, Carrie Lake, who's running for Arizona governor, and Mark Fincham, Secretary of State, who is also an oath keeper, plan to get rid of mail-in voting and tabulating machines in future elections. What would all this mean for our democracy? They could then refuse to certify election results. Where we are headed here is beyond dark. This paranoid and delusional thinking is taking over the Republican Party and is going to destroy our democracy if we let it. The hand counting is one part of a multi-pronged effort, just like all the tentacles of Donald Trump's efforts to overturn the election. It's as simple as this. If Donald Trump's lies are true, then we have a whole lot of illegitimate people in office who are on the same ticket. Our county recorder, county attorney, sheriff, state legislator, and legislators. Why are they legitimate, but Joe Biden is not? It does not make sense. The entire premise is based on Donald Trump's lies. What the Board of Supervisors should be doing is be reassuring the constituents of how well our system works. I'm asking you to stand back and look at what you are involved in here. This is a cult of Donald Trump's creation. You have lost touch with reality collectively, certainly strayed from Christian values you were probably raised with, the ones that say don't lie, cheat, steal, don't steal top secret government intelligence, don't storm the Capitol.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Andrew Poznansky. The light changes after green to yellow. That means you have 1 minute left. When it changes to red, that means it's over. Mr. Poznanski?
Yes. Good morning. My name is Andrew Poznanski. I live in Sierra Vista at 2651 Misty View Way, 85650. I am a naturalized U.S. citizen. I'm a retired network engineer. I left Poland 42 years ago to escape socialism and communism. Okay. Well, I stay.
This is the public place, so if he chooses to take pictures, we
Okay,
cannot
well,
keep him from taking
she's
pictures.
taking my time. So, to me, America was always a beacon of freedom, personal liberties, defender of democracy against the ruthless Soviet Empire, stunning technological inventions, and a great economic achievements. Unfortunately, in recent years, some events are taking place which undermine our democracy and our constitution, which is the foundation of our political system. Some recent developments have been traveling in a direction of communism. We don't want that to happen to America. The reason I am making this presentation today is to stress the importance of election integrity. Here are the main requirements to make it happen. Voting registration system before election in which each voter proves that he or she is a U.S. citizen. They get a photo ID, voter card, and they show that ID before they get a ballot in polling place. Vote in person, no voting by mail, unless the person is disabled. Eliminate tabulation machines. Tabulation machines are computers, and computers can be hacked. That should be obvious. Utilize only paper ballots. Eliminate private drop boxes. Each ballot box must have a tamper-proof security mechanism such as seal. Chain of custody with each ballot box. Hand count of 100% of all verified ballots. Let's make our election secure. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to give this presentation.
Thank you, Andrew. All right, I'm going to mention it to you again. The call to the public is for the public to inform the board, not to perform for you. So I'm going to ask that you refrain from either booing or laughing or clapping or any kind of emotion, because they're here to speak to us, not to you. Joseph Patterson. The next people will be Gwen Patterson, Richard Sisar, Elizabeth Lopez, and Steve Marlett. Go ahead.
Good morning, Madam Supervisor and Supervisor Crosby and Supervisor Judd. My name is Joseph Patterson, address 2872 Palmer Drive, Sierra Vista, Arizona. I would like to start by clarifying something. I think it's being misunderstood by many people. What is being requested here is to perform the election just the way it's always, well, the way it's been done for the past 10 years or whatever. Perform it that way. But in addition to that, we would like to have a hand count, 100% hand count of all the votes to confirm machine tabulation. So we're not asking that the election not be run the way it's been run, that machines not be used, run them the way we always do. Let's get the results. And then concurrently with that, let's have a hand count of all the votes as well. And confirm, make sure that we are all satisfied that these results are true. We can trust these. We can come together. We don't have to fight anymore. We can accept the results and move on. That's what we're requesting. And I want to thank the members of the board who are supporting this effort. I want to say that we have numerous volunteers on a list ready to go to work to get this done. The purpose of the meeting this afternoon, as I understand it, is to discuss the feasibility, given the time that we're dealing with. Is it feasible to do this? And the outcome of that discussion will dictate what course we take. If it can be done, we should do it. For everybody here, it's peace. We're divided, folks, and it doesn't have to be. We're neighbors. Used to be do unto others as you would have them do unto you. What happened to that? I mean, we're neighbors. We love our county. We love it here. So I would encourage the board to go with the 100% hand count if it's feasible.
That's it. Gwen Patterson?
My name is Gwen Patterson, 2872 Palmer Drive, Sierra Vista, Arizona. I don't have much more to add than what has been said. This 100% hand count is not changing anything. It's reassuring people. How can that be bad? We only have our vote. I see people in the audience that are here that are quivering to come here because they might be called names. That's not fair. We are all one people. I don't care who you are. If something happened to you right now, all of us would run to assist you and help you. Let's remember that. Let's stop the vitriol. Let's love one another and respect one another's viewpoint. The hand count is simply reassurance of the one thing we're given as citizens, our vote. It's not wrong to want to care about that vote. All of my grandparents, except one, were born on foreign soil, and their vote was precious. It was a wonderful thing to become a citizen and to vote. And that has been passed on to me, and I'm grateful to God for every opportunity I've had, and I want to protect the vote. I want to be reassured. I'm not changing anything. It can be done. It's not rocket scientists. Sorry, I've been talking to them.
Sure.
So that's all I have to say, and may God bless us.
Thank you. Richard Cesar?
Good morning. My name is Richard Caesar.
Caesar.
I reside at 1910 East Yavapai Place in Sierra Vista, Arizona, in the county, actually. A great president, Thomas Jefferson, once said, "The greatest danger to American freedom is a government that fails to follow the Constitution." I believe we're seeing a little bit of that now. However, a few years later, another great president, Ronald Reagan, said, "Evil is powerless when good people are unafraid." In June 2016, a very important event occurred that some people might not be aware of. But in June 2016, the British people got together to vote whether they remain in the European Union or leave. Up until the day of the vote, the Remainers, according to the polls, held a 10% lead. The party to exit did something very interesting. They went out and vigorously campaigned to make sure that those who wanted to exit the European Union bring a pen. Why? Because if they came without a pen, a poll worker would give them a pencil. Well, when the vote was tallied, we found out that the exit people won by 52 to 48%. Once again, the polls were worthless, as we saw in 2016. I believe that the hand count, as my predecessors have said, will do nothing more than verify what the original count says. What's the harm in that? We're still trying to get answers from what happened in 2020. Some of us believe one thing, some of us believe another. We're allowed to do that. We're Americans, the greatest country on the face of the planet. But the one thing that we're not allowed to do is keep facts away from each other, because facts carry the truth. And Aldous Huxley once said, facts do not cease to exist just because they are ignored. I'd like to thank the panel for giving me a moment to speak. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Elizabeth Lopez.
Good morning. My name is Elizabeth Lopez. I live at 1380 East Loma Lane in Sierra Vista. I'm a public school educator and I'm a voter. And I'd like to talk about the results of the 2020 general election here in Cochise County. In Cochise County, Republican Donald Trump and Mike Pence won for president and vice president. And the Republican candidates won for U.S. Senator and U.S. Congress. In our state elections, Republicans won for our Arizona State Senator, our Arizona State Representatives, and Corporation Commissions. And in our county elections, Republicans won for County Assessor, County Attorney, County Recorder, County Sheriff, County Treasurer, and County School Superintendent. And 2 of our Board of Supervisors, who are Republicans, also won. And English, I'm sorry, you're the only Democrat on my list. But
It is what it is.
in our county elections, Republicans won. They won big. And you would think that Republicans would be proud and happy with that outcome. But instead, we hear that many Republicans are angry. They claim that they can't trust our elections. They claim election fraud. And they claim they can't trust our county election officials, even though their guys won. How can they be such poor sports about winning? Does this mean that angry Republicans don't believe that you won? Do they really not accept that you won fairly and squarely? I mean, I'm a Democrat and I accept that you won because I have faith in our election system. 61,000 people voted in Cochise County in the 2020 general election. How many of those voters are expressing concerns to you about election fraud in the races that Republicans won? The greatest attempt to defraud our election happened when the chairman of the Cochise County Republican Committee, Robert Montgomery, was one of the signers of the fraudulent electoral vote certificates that were submitted to Congress as part of the failed attempt to overturn Arizona's results in the 2020 presidential election. These Republicans tried to subvert over 10,000 of our votes because their guy didn't win. What sore losers? It's criminal. That's election fraud. That's the election fraud that we should all be concerned about. Thank you.
Steve Marlette. The next people to get ready should be Johnny Lee Wilson, Keel Kiabu, Kate Scott, and Daniel LaChance. Go ahead.
My name is Steve Marlatt. I live at 3303 West Airport Road, Wilcox, Arizona, 85643. I was shocked to hear that we were considering today discussing having a complete hand count of our election. I've been a poll worker this year and have been a poll observer in the past. Cochise County prides itself on having one of the very best election systems. And I want you to take and put yourself in the position of working for that department. They're a very bipartisan department. They do not take any stance on things. They want to just provide the very best election system we can possibly have. How do they do that? To begin with, they try to get the very best equipment. This board has been able to support them by buying the best machines possible to be able to check the ballots. It's the best one in the state. Everyone that we've tested on this has shown that, yes, this is the best you can get. Do they leave it at that? No. They go ahead and start out and retest those machines before every single election. Members of both parties are present to see the results of that. The results come back 100%. Are they content with that? Nope. They go ahead and establish very strict rules of what is needed to be able to go through and vote. ID requirements, verification of signatures, everything that needs to be done to verify people that are voting are the ones that are supposed to. Are they content there? Nope, they're not. They make sure that they have secure means of transporting the votes to be counted. Are they done? Nope. We afterwards have a sample hand count. Are we really thinking of going and counting every single vote again? We're not. It's not realistic because otherwise we're talking about every vote in the entire country. We'd be months, if not years, in the process of doing that. When we do the recount, we have bipartisan support. Every member that was sitting there at the table with me, both parties, was content that yes, indeed, we had 100% verification that the system worked. So the biggest challenge I see right now in our country is getting people to be part of democracy or to step aside and not vote. Almost a third of our country now is being apathetic and convinced, no, their vote doesn't count. They don't want to be a part of this system. When will enough be enough? When we had the recount in Maricopa County, it verified indeed that we had done it correctly, but that wasn't enough. So when will be enough? We need to go ahead and trust in our county elections department and support these people who are doing an amazing job and not try to sow distrust. Thank you.
Mr. Wilson?
I'm Johnny Lee Wilson Sr. I live at 4998 South Calle Alamo in Sierra Vista. And first of all, I want to thank you for your service and your staff. It's, you know, you do a lot of good. So anyway, I was thinking the other day, I'm just talking off my head. I don't have nothing written down. I'm just, anyway, I was thinking, do I really count as a person? And it made me think back in 1963, I was a senior in high school, and an announcement came over the loudspeaker that President John F. Kennedy had been assassinated in Dallas. Okay, try not to get emotional. The next year, I joined the National Guard. I volunteered. I registered to vote. I wasn't old enough to vote when he was in, or I'd have voted for him. And I've voted every year since then. Every election since then. And with all the stuff going on now, everybody bickering at each other about this and that and who's right and who's wrong. I wondered, does my vote count? We were watching TV the night of the election, 2020, different channels going around, and they kept switching the vote. Trump was ahead, Biden was ahead, the same thing. So I'm concerned the reason we want to do 100% hand count is to find out who is right and who's wrong. And I'm like the rest of them. I love everybody in here. I'm not a mean person. And one other point, everybody gets on the MAGA thing, how bad MAGA is. Okay, who was the first one that said that? Ronald Reagan. He said, let's make America great. Who's the second one that said that? Bill Clinton. You can look this up. Let's make America great. Donald Trump added one word to it. Let's make America great again. So now all of a sudden, people are so mad at him that he wants to steal our country and stuff. But I want to make sure that our vote counts. And I don't know, try not to get emotional. I'd never spoke in front of public before. And I appreciate everything that you guys do. And you're in my district too. So I'll be watching you. Anyway, so that's all I got to say. Is this, can't we just all get along? And I don't see nothing wrong with 100% hand count.
Thank you. Phil Kiabu?
Chairman English, members of the Cochise County Board of Supervisors, I'm Cale Kiabu. I live at 2804 Canyon View Drive, Sierra Vista. I think 100% hand count of all ballots after they have been tallied by the current counting method is necessary for all voters to be confident in the final tally. Why do I say that? And why is it possible? Prior to automation, there was 100% hand count of all ballots for all candidates, so it is possible. Earlier this year, a single vote tally by machines in DeKalb County's District 2 Commissioner race in this year's primary illustrates how bad it can be when machines get it wrong. And it wasn't the machine that got it wrong, it was whoever touched the machine. All District 2 Commissioner candidates' votes totaled changed after the hand count. After the count by the machines were changed by the hand count. Mrs. Spears, the eventual runoff winner, went from third in the primary to first, from 3,031 votes by the machine to 6,651 votes, more than a 100% increase. The original top vote getter, who did not make the runoff, went from 5,226 to 3,928, from first to third. I can see maybe increasing for candidates, but how does the machine count extra votes and then you end up going backwards with the hand count? So in addition to the hand count total for all District 2 candidates, what they found was 2,810 more votes for all the Democrat candidates, and these were Democrat candidates. The total hand count equaled 15,449. The machines counted 12,639. The machines missed 18% of the total votes cast. It's important to remember that this error was detected because at least part of the tallies included precinct level results, something that our current method of vote counting in Cochise County makes impossible. Ms. Spears noticed that she had received 0 votes in her own precinct. We can't do that here because of the system that we have. I wonder if they verified all results in District 2 with a hand count. From this article, it does not seem that they did. Well, why not? Why not look at all of them? That they got one race wrong, they added 2,000 votes. Is confidence in our election system results important or not? They would not have done that hand count if she was not there and saw that she got 0 votes in her precinct.
Thank you. Kate Scott?
Good morning. My name is Kate Scott, and don't let my address fool you. It's 141 Page Lane in Elgin, Arizona, but I'm on the farthest west side of the Cochise County in that little slice, Huachuca Mountains. Understanding, tolerance, respect, compassion, empathy. To be blessed to be born here as an American, I'm humbled by the opportunities and rights given to me by the U.S. Constitution, e pluribus unum, out of many, one. We need to celebrate all that is good and sweet in life. We need to work to improve ourselves and help others. We need to remember with humility that it is our responsibility to leave this world better off in any way we can with whatever time we have. My hope is we will all work together to bring all of our questions and concerns to our duly elected officials and stand together in one voice and create pathways of unity. So, why engage in a hand counting of votes with only a few weeks away? To me, it sends out shock waves to question a process that has worked flawlessly the entire 25 years I've been blessed to live here. I feel it only foments fear and distrust. It might bear consideration, but not at this point. And at this time, I think we need to let our very competent elections director, Lisa Mara, do her job. And as Lisa was quoted by the Herald, and I feel it bears repeating, I've seen discussion in other states and some that have done it without success. That ends up in more lawsuits. It's dangerous to implement something that large and untested with no legal process or standard procedure in place at this late date before a major election. We are living in a time in our society where people are choosing their own truths. This is a dangerous path, I feel. The truth is the truth, as my parents taught me. There were no discrepancies held up in the court of law for the voting processes across the country in the 2020 election. I feel that the heart of our democracy is possibly at stake. And I just feel that, in my humble opinion, I don't believe a fake elector in Robert Montgomery should hold any county positions. And I join my fellow colleagues, Arizonans and friends here to urge you to disengage from this pathway of sowing seeds of doubt, fear, and insecurity in our election process. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you this morning.
Daniel LaChance. The next group to get ready, Joe Gilliland, Jean, I'm sorry, DeFlera, Kim Depew, and Pamela Gravely.
Good morning, Supervisors. My name is Dan LaChance, 4217 South Hohokam, Sierra Vista. Bottom line up front, we are not asking to change how we do one single task for counting the vote, but we do want to add a full hand count for every paper vote, be it by mail ballot, election center ballot, both normal and provisional, and to verify the vote to 100% certainty. We want to compare the hand count to the machine count. We want this to be an enduring process. I'm here now as a sovereign citizen to say that we need our elected representatives to do our work to help us protect the sanctity, integrity, and veracity of the vote, the most important element for ensuring our republic and therefore our freedom and liberty survives. Why do we want this? We can look back to virtually every election and see that verification and integrity has gotten worse. In fact, just look back to the last two elections. In 2016, 50% claimed there was a huge problem. And 50% more, the other 50% claimed that 2020 was stolen. We have a huge problem. I want to make a constitutional argument today. In a very profound way, I represent every single person in this room today who is a citizen of the United States, as we are each part of the sovereign citizenry. Yes, believe it or not, we are the sovereigns of this great nation and this great state. Some have asked me, what is a sovereign citizen? Sovereign citizens, all of us, are the owners of the republic, the bosses. Our sovereignty, by its nature, takes priority over everything in government. Each of us owns every part of this room, every chair, every wall, every laptop. We own the salaries, the health care premiums, the benefits of every government employee. None of it would exist without our consent and taxes. Not only do we pay for it, more importantly, we give to you a part of our sovereign power to protect our constitutional rights and freedoms, our persons, our property. We trust and expect that each of you will always make that your first and highest, most important priority. Still, we have the right and, far more importantly, the obligation to verify the receipts, in spite of the roadblocks often put in way by either well-intentioned but misguided employees, and especially for those who don't want us to see them. We have a deep trust deficit right now, and we need our employees, to which we grant some of our civil power and a lot of our money, to help us restore 100% conviction of election integrity. Not 50%, 75%, 99%, but 100% election integrity. Our employees must help us in that pursuit. Be proud and ready to help the sovereigns, to prove the results to 100%, to provide veracity and integrity, so that each and every citizen can trust the results. Not just the ones who are happy with the results this time. It is way past time to do better, and yet we are doing worse. We have the people to do it, the urgent need to do it, and we have the authority to do it, just as the sovereign citizens that we are.
That's it. Thank you.
We can have 100%.
Mr. Gilliland? Mr. Gilliland? Mr. Gilliland, it's your turn.
I'm finally here. And you're finally going to hear the finest and the finest of all the speeches so far. You believe that, you'll believe anything. No, I really find it very ironic and very...
Your name and address first, please,
Oh,
Mr. Gilliland.
my name's Joe Gilliland. I'm from Bisbee, Arizona. I live at 126 Mountain View, and I've lived here since 1964. And I've voted in every presidential election since 1948. and I have never had to worry about the final results, except I was disappointed when we lost, and we lost a number of times because I'm a Democrat. I voted for Harry S. Truman in 1948, and I voted by mail. And it was the easiest thing in the world to do. I was in college and I couldn't go home to vote. But I've never seen an election in which there was so much underhanded so many underhanded claims of fraud when that particular administration has committed in its own sessions in Congress and in the White House more fraud than we've seen by many presidents in the past. So I do question. There's one thing about democracy. It's hard. Remember what Churchill said, democracy is the worst form of government except it's better than all the rest, which is a kind of humorous statement, but it tells truth. It's hard because it depends upon the trust of people trusting each other. The Constitution begins in its preamble. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union. A more perfect means it's not perfect. All government is imperfect. But some of the imperfect governments get away with no errors because they have one man who tells them what's true and they have to believe it, or else. We got rid of that in 1776. It wrote a constitution in 1789, which included a Bill of Rights, which is embedded in the constitutions now, and it was actually embedded in the minds of the first settlers in the Massachusetts Bay Colonies. They had a body of liberties that were almost exactly the same as the Bill of Rights. We have a constitutional system that depends upon trust. Depends upon the acceptance of the failure as well as the hope for the future. So that's all I have to say, and I thank you for letting me speak last because I like to feel that I summed it all up, which I often don't do really. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Dillon. Gene? No.
Good morning. My name is Jean Jafrida. I live at 1001, I had to write it down, South Wilderness Road in Hereford, Arizona, 85615. I've been a resident of Cochise County for 27 years. First, I want to talk about the fact that I would like to commend the Cochise County Board of Supervisors for considering and pursuing the request from your constituents to conduct a 100% hand count of the 2022 midterm elections. This county has led the way in the past for upholding the most secure elections, and I applaud you for that. And I applaud you now for taking on this initiative and continuing that effort. Good for you, and thank you for working for your constituents of Cochise County. Second, I did have an agenda item that I wanted to talk against. I have a huge concern about item 13 on the agenda. In the presentation from Dr. Clay for the Cochise County School Mental Health Consortium, it states that this consortium will provide and augment mental health services for the schools in Cochise County, provide peer support and training for students and parents. Students in jail and their families receive mental health services while incarcerated and during re-entry into our schools. First of all, I want to know how many students are in this situation, and aren't they already receiving these services through Cochise County? There was a statement that school districts are paying over $800,000 in social services. I want to know what school district that is. I think that school district obviously has these services employed and these people employed, so I would think this would be a duplication of services. There was also a statement saying that most health providers won't work in the county. I don't find that to be a valid argument for $1.3 million worth of spending. I believe if the argument is because there's a 20 or 25-minute drive to Sierra Vista, we are driving to Sierra Vista for our groceries. We're driving to Sierra Vista for our orthodontics. We are driving to Sierra Vista for car care. So a 20 to 25-minute car ride does not, to me, warrant the duplication of services for Cochise County. When did it become the responsibility of our schools to provide mental health services to the staff and students anyway? I don't feel this is the obligation of the county. And all of this was based on a survey that was conducted, which had 52 people respond to.
That's it, please.
And the 52 people out of that
person
were,
is
26
Kim
of them
Depew.
were educators themselves.
Thank you. Kim Depew.
My name is Kim Depew. I live at 5357 South Laguna Avenue, Sierra Vista. Many people have already stated a lot of what I was going to say, so if you'll forgive me if it sounds odd, I'm going to start right in the middle of what I wrote. Cochise County forgot to clear the voting machines immediately after practice training. By itself, that's not an alarming mistake, but it is indicative that computers and programmers are imperfect. Many of us noticed that we had voted twice at the Arizona.vote. Mr. Stevens faithfully transmitted votes to the state, and still, the state indicated I voted twice. No one explains it, and I'm a conspiracy nut to keep asking. We had no reason to doubt our elections prior to 2020. Cochise County got fancy digital voting. Vote centers worked very well. Vote results are issued in a timely manner. Poll workers reported how efficient polling places really are. But our votes are sacred. We want to be sure, absolutely sure. Why is there resistance to this request for a hand count? The cause of this contentious atmosphere is the attitude of the people whose salaries we pay. If our questions are worthless, we assume our votes are worthless. Elections directors and employees should appear neutral. This community is too compact to parse what's professional and what's personal. County Policy 2203 states in part, programs are to be administered in an unbiased manner. To promote public confidences in government, participation in any political process must not compromise the neutrality, efficiency, or integrity of an employee's function in that department or create a real or perceived conflict of interest. We simply want to recapture citizen control over our election process. Many of us want to return to paper ballots and a meaningful election day instead of a chaotic election season. No excuse mail-in ballots must be eliminated. The pendulum has swung too far toward easy in voting. Voting should be purposeful, not convenient. We desire fairness and accuracy. We want to understand the election process and be invited to participate, not told to shut up, go away. Providing a congenial atmosphere to accomplish a hand count would go a long way to restoring trust in our election process. And I thank you.
Thank you. Pamela? The next people will be Carolyn Sue Harris, Robert Montgomery, and Inga McCord, and Sandra Clark. Go ahead.
Hi, good morning. I'm a poll worker for the 2022 elections. My name is Pamela Gravely. I'm at 1645 Braddock Drive, Sierra Vista AZ 85635. From the Poll Workers Training Handbook, 2022 election, page 9, we have a duty under our oath to support the Constitution and laws of Arizona. We have a duty to report unsafe, unprofessional conduct, or illegal activity to the inspector or the director of elections. This is a signed sworn affidavit from me and notarized, and in parts of it say, I was selected as a poll worker for polling location VC9. My training session was held August 22 from 9 till 12, and Ms. Lisa Mara, elections director, she beautifully led the training. She directed the trainees such as myself to select our own name and others and issue a ballot. That's really important. For those who don't know, the computer system is brand new this year. So on election day at 5:45 in the morning, After the computer tablets were set up and hooked into the MiFi, I noticed that the ballot count on the machine was more than zero. More than zero. There were already ballots on the machines. More than zero. We started the day with inaccurate voter data, so I notified Stephanie Alvarez, our poll inspector, and the IT gentleman of this discrepancy. I suggested that our training had not been zeroed out. The IT person selected my name and it presented as voted already. I had not voted. I did not do a mail-in. I had not voted. So obviously the database had false and inaccurate information that morning. Several other poll workers found the same to be true. They presented as already voted as well. Maxine, who sat beside me, showed voted already, and she had not. She brought her mail-in ballot and placed it in the black box later that day. Did her true vote even count? An 18-year-old first-time voter came in, and it showed that he had already voted. He wasn't qualified to vote before that. He had to do a provisional. Did his true vote count? I was told by another poll worker, Jenny, who trained at a different time than I did, that she performed her training, then walked directly over to do early voting, and it showed that she had already voted. Did her true vote really count? So the Shiloh Baptist also showed some experience of the same. Later, and this is another important point, later in the afternoon, many registered voters came up with a birth month of 19. 1 through 12, 19. A bunch of them. The tablet judge sitting beside me, her name was Laura, she mentioned that it was happening, and when she pulled it up, and I noticed it was happening to me. So obviously many voter records were inaccurate. My experience was very concerning as to the accuracy of the votes. I'm not convinced that all votes counted in Cochise County for the primary. So the question is, one of our very basic rights is to vote, right? We have to have our vote counted. All legal votes should count, all of them. Did they in the primary?
Thank you. Carolyn Harris.
Carolyn Harris, 404C Mason Hill Avenue, Old Bisbee, Arizona. I'm a citizen, I'm a voter of Cochise County, and I'm a patriot. And we've heard a lot about the Constitution and voting. I'm going to read to you a section of the Constitution which I hold dear. This is the United States Constitution, Amendment 14, Section 3. No person shall be a senator or representative in Congress or elector of president and vice president or hold any office, civil or military, under the United States or under any state who, having previously taken an oath as a member of Congress or as an officer of the United States or as a member of any legislature or as an executive or judicial officer of any state to support the Constitution of the United States shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof.
Quiet, please.
But Congress may, by vote of 2/3 of each house, remove such disability. I'm here to remind Cochise County voters that members of this board appointed Robert Montgomery to a seat on the Palominas Fire District Board and our county's Planning and Zoning Commission. He was a fake elector and wanted to overturn our great nation's election results before January 6 of 2021. Make no mistake, Montgomery's signature was in support of insurrection.
Mr. Montgomery, please be quiet.
Okay, Supervisors. So I am Robert Montgomery, the patriot that local socialists love to hate, and a proud elector.
Your name and address, please.
Yes, ma'am. I do live in Palominas at 9710 Cana Street, going on over 40 years now. So with the timeliness of that wonderful comment, I would like to refer our friends who are uninformed and, well, uninformed. This is the Constitution of the United States. Refer to Amendment 12 and also Article 2 that describe exactly the process for the Electoral College, okay? And then after you studied up on that, go to YouTube. Check a video from 2016 on the United States Senate floor featuring Maxine Waters having a emotional meltdown to the then Senate President Joe Biden, begging him to stop counting the votes for Donald Trump because he stole the election. He surely did steal the election, and please don't count any more ballots for Donald Trump. Poor Maxine waiving her letter of objection, begging one U.S. senator to sign it, which is what is required in here to qualify her protest. Alas, no senator would sign it, and Vice President President Joe Biden dismissed her effort as unqualified. And so we have heard ever since about President Trump's ineligibility as president. Okay, so let me suggest Democrats and Republicans do not have a monopoly on complaint. Okay, Democrats lead that charge primarily, and everything that I was honored to do with that effort is described right here in the Constitution, and I hold it near and dear. Why do we have over 100 poll observers for this coming election at the Republican Party? Because there's a failure of trust. And one of my favorite quotes through history is from Ben Franklin. You all know it. When asked, what kind of a government will we have, Mr. Franklin? What was his answer? A republic if you can keep it. If you can keep it. How are we going to keep it? We're going to keep it with honest ballots and oversight of the population on all of the processes in government. And that is the best way. The alternative is unthinkable. And so we do what we can to maintain the honest ballot. A smart person who we all know, perhaps in this room right now, once told me, Robert, in America, we get to fix it. In the world, they don't get to fix it. Here, we do get to fix it. I want to thank Director Lisa Merritt for those.
Inga, you're next. Inga?
Hi, I'm Inga McCord. I live in Stump Canyon. I have been a resident for going on 40 years myself. Here's the drama queen part. What difference does it make now? If you remember, that's what Hillary said after four Americans were killed in Benghazi. Nothing has ever been done to resolve that situation. I also was a programmer for 30 years, and I know a lot about software and hardware. I know that the quality of the human being that writes the software is paramount to the success of how the software functions. I got called at 4 o'clock in the morning on a beeper if somebody divided by 0, some little insignificant problem. It's called a bug. There's software bugs in every piece of software that exists. I forgot my train of thought. Anyway, when I worked for Texas Instruments, I worked on the DNOS operating system. It was an internal product that went with the TI-990. When we sent out a release of software to the public to purchase products, we sent out a bug list, known bugs that existed in our software. We couldn't fix them all. I didn't know you sent out software that was broken with bugs identified, but they do. I have a cell phone that has a lot of bugs. I'm a technophobe. I don't trust technology. Human beings make errors. That's true. But software is also full of errors, and the hardware, the software they download to hardware can also be full of software. So I don't trust software, period. Low tech, I'd rather add up my numbers for IRS than do it on a machine, because now they're going to come and get you with their guns. I just think that any measure to further to verify its quality assurance, quality control. We lived it every day of our programming profession. There's nothing wrong with extra checks and balances, especially if you have volunteers. You can have free, dedicated labor.
Thank you. Sandra Clark.
Hello, I'm Sandra Clark. I live at 139 East La Soledad in Green Valley, Arizona. I was born in Romania. Unlike the gentleman that earlier spoke, whose grandparents or his parents came from Nicaragua, so he knows what it's like to live under a regime that's authoritarian. He heard the stories. I lived it. I am absolutely not opposed to counting by hand if there is a proper procedure in place. At the 24th hour, with 3 weeks plus to go to the election, you cannot start changing, adding, subtracting to the process, because that is interfering with the duly free process of voting. And you, sir, you're smart a lot during this proceeding. You are a paid official. You should be serious. This is serious business. What is so funny to you? I lived under communism and you call that we are Democrats are communists. Let me tell you who is communist. Orban is a communist. He was your speaker. Putin is a communist. I don't want this for Arizona. And you people like strongmen. Why? Because they are bullies. Let me tell you, Mr. Montgomery, you signed the fake electors thing, 11 of you. It's documented. When you sign a fake check, Jose would go to jail. The reason that you people are emboldened is because none of you big fish suffered. But when Kelly Ward, like Trump hold the Bible upside down. Don't show me the Constitution. I studied it. You messed it. Let me tell you. He's smoking again. Shame on you. You're an official. Be serious. This is serious business. We are talking about Arizona remaining a democracy or not.
Please
this is serious. Let me tell you, this elections, this midterm, it's going to be determining what kind of a country we remain. Democracy is on the line and it's so fragile. Kelly Ward, one of your others, 11 number, she went under oath, she pled the fifth. Who plays the fifth? According to Donald Trump, only mobsters and crooks. What does that make you? This is un-American to call Democrats socialists, communists. You don't even know what you are talking. You are repeating endlessly a mantra. I know what it's like, and they are not communists, they are not socialists. Putin is one. He's friends with your Donald Trump. Your orange Jesus, as some of the Republicans in Congress call him.
That's it. Thank you, Ms. Clark.
Shame on you.
That is the last. All right, now we've been pretty good about being nice to each other so far, so let's not go down that road. That is the last speaker that we had in the call to the public, and I can tell you that I, for one, need a break. Before we continue with the presentation, which I'm sure is exciting and important, I need to depress for a few minutes. So, Tim, the time that's showing on your computer, we can't use the clocks. We got to use the computer time.
Madam Chair, I have 11:22.
Okay, it's 11:22, and so I'm going to ask for a 10-minute break before we come back to the regular meeting. And again, I want to thank you for coming, and let's keep it so that this call to the public is something that we can be proud of. And remember, you're coming to talk to the board, not to each other.
Madam Chair,
yes.
I would also like to thank all of the attendees, whether they agree with me or not, for coming.
This isn't an agenda item, but we do have a presentation, and we're proud of the work that the U.S. Department of Business Administration has done. So, Dan, Deshawn, would you tell us who is here to tell us about the good work that they've been going through after our floods?
Yes, good morning. Daniel Deshawn, Emergency Manager, Cochise County. I'm here with Javier Caltenco with the Small Business Administration. At the end of August, we had some heavy rains and severe flooding in Elfrida and St. David here in Cochise County, which led to almost 100 damaged homes to a certain extent. After the floodwaters had receded and we were able to shift into recovery phase and get people connected with insurance and the Red Cross and resources, the Small Business Administration came out for 2 weeks on site and allowed homeowners to come in and apply for low interest loans to help repair their damaged property. So Javier here is going to present on the results of that, and we're very thankful that they came out on site for 2 weeks to do that here in Cochise County in Bisbee. Javier?
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Javier Caltenco. I'm a Public Information Officer with the U.S. Small Business Administration, Office of Disaster Assistance. And as you know, we do have an agency declaration here in Cochise County, the primary county. So Cochise County residents who suffer damages due to the severe storms and flooding that happened during August 23 to the 28th can apply with the Office of with SBA for disaster assistance. Now, SBA offers low interest federal disaster loans to businesses of all sizes, most private nonprofit organizations, homeowners, and renters as well. Now, SBA disaster loans are the primary source of funds to pay for any repairs or replacement costs not fully covered by the insurance or other compensation. Businesses of all sizes can borrow up to $2 million to repair or replace any property damages that they had. So just to give you an example, it could be supplies, it could be inventory, and real estate as well. Just to give you an example, small businesses engaged in aquaculture and most private nonprofit organizations can also borrow up to $2 million for any economic injuries. So therefore, they're having a hard time paying for their business expenses. They can also request for they can apply for an economic injury disaster loan as well. Homeowners can request up to $200,000 to repair or replace their primary residence. And homeowners and renters can borrow up to $40,000 to replace any personal belongings that they suffered, they lost. It could be vehicles, including. Now, just to give you an example, the interest rates are 2.188% for homeowners, 3.04% for businesses, and for nonprofit organizations is 1.875%. We do not have any application fees. We have no closing costs. Okay. We have no prepayment penalties, and it can be amortized over 30 years. Now, the other thing I want to mention is that how can they apply? We still have a deadline. The deadline is for physical damages is November 18th. 2022, and for the economic injury disaster loan is until June 19th, 2023. So the way that we individuals who suffer damages, they can apply is by calling our 800 number, which is 800-659-2955. They can also apply online by going to disasterloanassistance.sba.gov. Or they can also go to our local SBDC, which is a Small Business Development Center, which is in Sierra Vista, and they can get assistance personally there as well. Now, as of now, we have over 12 applicants. We do have 3 that have been approved for over $98,000. And that's pretty much what I wanted to provide. If you have any questions.
No questions, but I think that, you know, we, and Dan has those dates down when people can still apply.
Correct.
Because what do you call those flyers along the road? It's gone now because you're not here anymore. And so people may think that it's over, but it isn't until November
18th for physical
And
damages.
if it were economics based on your products, it could be into June.
Correct, until next year, right? That's for businesses.
Right.
Correct.
All right. So thank you very much. You know, on behalf of the county, you know, we did feel that there was significant damage enough that these people needed to have an opportunity for help. Do you have any
Thank you,
comments or
Mr.
questions?
Caltenko. I appreciate your time and efforts and information.
Thank you.
Ms. Judd, did you have any comments or questions?
I did it. From what I'm hearing and people's homes that were ruined,
Peggy, you're not clear right now. Can you speak into the microphone? We can't.
Hello. Can you hear me?
If you can speak just a little louder.
I might not be able to talk to you right now. Oh, Jesus.
That I heard.
Okay, so I just want to say 96,000 doesn't sound like a lot for the number of reports I was getting in the St. David area. This isn't really for you, Mr. Katenko, but thank you for coming in. But it's more for the county. If we could maybe do an article about that and try to get information out, that would be good.
We're grateful that you were here. Did you get that?
Okay.
Oh, gosh, Ann, can you hear me now?
Yes.
The county needs to let that information be out from this meeting. But thank you.
I just want to say one more thing. You know, if anybody suffered damages, we just encourage them to apply. As I mentioned, there's 3 ways to apply, and you know, if you are approved for the loan, you don't have to take it. So therefore, you know, please apply. Don't wait, because at least, you know, if you have if you apply and you get approved, at least you have the option to take the loan or not. Thank you.
Good idea. I hadn't thought of that. Thank you for being here. And thanks, Dan, for promoting the program. We're proud of our emergency services here. Okay, let's move right on. It looks as though we have not covered much of our, I shouldn't say that. We've gone through, what, 3 agendas already? So we've just started with this one, though. The next thing is the consent agenda. That's items 1 through 7. Do I hear a motion?
Madam Chair, I move we accept consent agendas 1 through 7, please.
I'll second it.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Chair votes aye, and it's unanimous and so ordered. Now we begin with the action items. First one is adult probation. Teresa, you've been so good about waiting and waiting, but now's your chance.
Good morning. My name is Teresa Rockridge. I'm the finance manager for
Pull down the microphone just a little bit. That good.
I'm the finance manager for adult and juvenile probation. And today we're presenting our adult probation state funding for fiscal 23. This is our approved budget. It's an annual budget that we get on those. And then the next one, if you want me to talk about it now, is the drug, gang, and violent crime control grant that also comes from the state.
Okay, we'll need separate motions on them, so we may have questions on the next one as well. Do we have a motion on item 8?
Madam Chair, I move that we approve fiscal year 2022 through 2023 adult probation funding agreement as provided by the Arizona Supreme Court Administrative Office of the Courts, effective July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023, and the amount of $2,093,677.
Second.
Okay, I heard you really well there, Peggy, so thank you. You know, that we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Chair votes aye, and it's unanimous and so ordered. Now we move to another gift from the state.
Yes.
A gift with expectations.
Yes.
Let's have a motion on the drug, gang, and violent crime control program, please.
Madam Chair, I move we approve fiscal year 2022 through 2023 drug, gang, and violent crime control program, DGVCCP funding as provided by the Arizona Supreme Court Administrative Office of the Courts in the amount of $60,628 and the required $20,210 matching funds as budgeted in the general fund budget submitted by adult probation effective July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023.
I'll second that.
Okay, now, Teresa, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I don't. Unless you have any questions.
Any questions from board members?
None at this time, thank you. I did read the information.
Right, and these are yearly, you know,
They're
so
yearly,
we
yeah.
kind of get used to the idea of what they're providing, but the money sometimes changes.
Yeah, a little bit.
All right, we have a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion, then I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Chair votes aye, and it's unanimous and so ordered. Item number 10. This is about the second amendment to agreement for employment of the county administrator, Richard Karwachka, and I have a motion to make on this. We did have a meeting this morning regarding the yearly, and we look at, just as our employees do, look, I'm not sure they look forward to it, but at least it gives us a benchmark of how we're doing on each of our employees. So this morning we had a successful conclusion talking with Mr. Karwachka, and very happy about the work that's taking place. And so my motion for this is I move to approve the second amendment to agreement for employment for County Administrator Richard G. Karwachka with the following amendments. Amend Section 3, compensation to read, the administrator shall be paid a gross annual salary of $165,000 per year. And amend Section 5, terms of agreement, for the term of office to continue through 12/31/25, with the Board of Supervisors determining whether to extend the agreement on or before 6/1/25. That is my motion.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Madam Chair, since you indulged me to make comments at the previous meeting, I will forego those same comments at this time.
Okay. No further comments, and I have a motion and a second, and I will call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
We have one opposed, but still it is approved and so ordered. Now we move on to item number 11, and our esteemed county attorney is here, Mr. McIntyre. While he's coming forward, let's have a motion on the floor.
Madam Chair, I move we approve the City of Tucson High Intensity Drug Trafficking Area HIDA Grant Agreement, HT 22-2909, between the City of Tucson and Cochise County in the amount of $148,113, effective January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2023.
Was I waiting for a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second now, so go ahead.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. My apologies. The most riveting portion of this presentation will be the words high-intensity drug trafficking, because that just sounds good. This is a re-up of our grant. The grant's been in existence for many, many years, I think as long as I've been with the county attorney's office, which is 2005. So it does pay almost all of the cost for one drug prosecutor and an administrative assistant, or legal secretary, 3 rather, for that prosecutor, and we ask that the board approve it.
Any questions or comments from the board members?
None at this time. I did read the material.
And Ms. Judd, you have any questions or comments? Hearing none, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Time is offered for comments. Hearing none, we'll move forward. All those in favor say aye.
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 Chair votes aye, and it's unanimous and so ordered. Okay, number 12, let's have a motion on the new crime scene reconstruction equipment.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the county attorney's recommendation to purchase new crime scene reconstruction equipment and software used in criminal prosecutions.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, so tell us why we need this, Brian.
Thank you. As you're all aware, our office kind of receives all the investigations from basically every law enforcement agency in the county. Problematic with that is that not every agency is equipped in the same fashion. And so one of the things in particular, I noticed it on a fatal shooting review that happened with a Border Patrol agent. The feds brought in their reconstruction equipment and allowed us to use it. And it gave you essentially, this occurred way out in the eastern part of the county. It's like an hour-and-a-half hike into the crime scene. Something my prosecutor's probably not going to be able to get to. At my advanced age, I might not be able to get to. But what this software, this is actually the one we're hoping to buy, is even an improvement on that. It's roughly 12 pounds. You can hike it into anywhere. You set it up, and it takes approximately, I think, 2 minutes to 3D map each point of interest. And then what that allows us from the prosecution perspective is it's as close to being inside that scene as you can get. And so the reason I kind of came up with the idea that we would purchase this as an asset rather than, say, an individual agency is, and we're using some border crime money to do so, is that it will facilitate us being able to ensure that whether it's Wilcox PD, Benson PD, Douglas, or the Sheriff's Department, et cetera, every citizen has the same level of quality when we're talking about these complex scenes. And certainly we're in a time I haven't seen before where we are having more and more, unfortunately, very significant events. And I think it's important for us from the prosecution side to make sure that we are presenting the best investigation to a jury at some point if it gets to that stage.
Well, in the conversations, you haven't mentioned cost and how you will pay for it. So for the benefit of the record, why don't you do that?
Oh, certainly. So they were included in the materials.
I know, but
okay.
the public here doesn't have those materials in front of them. So in the meeting, I like to have as much information as possible go on the record.
Certainly. So the total cost is $107,322.44. That involves all the equipment, all the software required. It also covers training. We were able to get a discount out on them coming on site for training, so we'll be able to train officers from each agency on how to use it. The money itself, this goes, gosh, I think it's now 5 years back. The initial, when we began getting Border Strike Task Force allocations every year. Over the course of the years, we have essentially divided those monies between the Sheriff's Department and the County Attorney's Office. And when the Sheriff's Department had a need bigger than ours, they would spend money. When we had a need bigger than we might spend money. But we've got this already squirreled away, if you will, from our portion of those funds. So it's essentially a return of state tax dollars to our county through the purchase of this equipment.
Any questions, comments from the board members?
Mr. McIntyre, like I said, I did read the material, and I noted that I believe that this software would allow a three-dimensional depiction of a room or a building, for instance, and it sounds like from what you're saying about the potential hike or not, that it could also maybe recreate a mountain scene.
It'll 3D map. There are certain limitations. You can't go miles and miles.
Right.
But for example, very recently we had an awful accident up at I-10 and Benson, at the Benson exit. This one camera, if you will, could be placed in 3 different locations, and within less than an hour, you would entirely map that and be able to just use your mouse and walk yourself through the entire accident scene. You would see everything that exists there. One of the other, I'm a tech nut, I guess, kind of interesting thing about it is it automatically removes moving objects. Why does that matter? So I've had crime scene photos where we're trying to walk a jury through and it's like, oh, here's his cat. And he's in this room and then now he's in that room, right? Instead, we'll get a true map of what the actual evidentiary items are, if you will.
Thank you very much. No,
Thank you.
no more questions. Thank you.
Any questions, Ms. Judd?
No, thank you.
Okay. Well, we have a motion and a second on the floor. If there's no further discussion, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, and it's unanimous and so ordered. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Item number 13. Could we have a motion on this intergovernmental agreement?
Madam Chair, I move we approve grant intergovernmental agreement IGA between the county school superintendent and the Arizona Department of Education ADE for the County Mental Health Consortium in the amount of $1,288,990 effective upon execution of the IGA through September 30th, 2024.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Ms. Clay?
Good afternoon, everyone. I have the honor and pleasure of explaining to you what our vision is for the Mental Health Consortium. What the Superintendent's Office is for is we're an educational service agency, and our job is to support schools in the county, private. We support our private, our charter, and our public schools, and what we try to do is fill in any gaps that are needed. So I'd just like to quickly explain to you what the vision is, if we have time, as far as the consortium is concerned.
Just don't take forever, but.
Yes, ma'am.
Give us the thumbnail sketch of it.
Give the Reader's Digest version?
Yeah.
Okay, next slide. Wait. As you can see, and as everyone can see, these are all the different things that we're going to be doing. Basically, we're going to augment mental health services for schools in Cochise County. And you'll see that in the next slide. One of the biggest problems we have is that we don't have enough psychologists and other mental health professionals to work in the schools. And that's one thing. And another thing is we want to serve as a liaison for schools so that we can establish partnerships. Right now, we have a lot of great organizations in Cochise County, but there needs to be glue or cement to bring them together. We don't have processes. For example, we had a student in Apache School District. There was a body out there at the bus stop, and apparently it was someone who was trying to cross the border. The first thing the sheriff's department did was call me, and then we called the chaplain, and then we were trying to figure out what do we do. There's nothing in my office for that. There's no processes. So we figured we need processes because right now all schools are every man for himself. And of course partner with the sheriff's department with their crisis responses team. And as you can see, the last bullet says to ensure our students in the detention center and the jails receive mental health services. Detention center, because those detention center students come back to us and we make sure they're squared away. So the augmentation that we're talking about in the second year, this is actually the consortium. The director is going to be hired the first year. The second year, that director will be hiring these people right here. Why do we need them? Because they're being charged outrageous prices. We're going to charge for services, but they're going to be called what they're called yellow page services, services that are not as high as what they're paying right now. You have some of these schools, they're going through a lot of court processes right now because they cannot provide those services. And when someone had said that we don't have those people here, we have some of them here, but they're working for Tucson. And then Tucson is sending them down to us, and they're charging outrageous prices. These same people who are working for them, they've been part of this planning for the last 3 years. They want to work for the county. They want to work for us and not work for someone else. So these are the 4 things that the school said that they needed. Next slide. This is what one of the schools are paying a month for services. And you say, what services? Well, when you have a student who's special needs, they have to, by law, have services. If you don't have those people on your staff to give those services, you're going to have to go outside of the staff. And because a lot of those services are not located down here, we have to go to Tucson. We become a cash cow for a lot of organizations outside of Cochise County. We're going to stop that because we're going to take care of our own. Next slide. Timelines. This was the timeline, basically year 1. I'm not going to go over it, but I do have the slides. Timeline for year 2. Next slide. We have letters of support and letters of commitment from schools in the county and also from organizations in the county. Okay. We have some testimonials from the field. We've asked parents if they needed it, and we basically asked for their comments. Yes, we only had 57 in this one, but that was when we first started the grant 18 months ago. Next slide. This is a testimonial from the field. They said that they're tired of being, we have one psychologist, she gets paid $65 an hour, but the organization charges the school $145. And that is, Madam Chair, I hope that was a thumbnail enough for you, but that is the Reader's Digest version of the Mental Health Consortium. This is the first time we're doing it. Yavapai County is going to be helping us. We're following their example, and we're hoping to reach sustainability and to move forward, taking care of our students and our teachers in the county. Thank you.
It's important to have some information on the record. And
yes, ma'am.
Also, if they looked at the agenda, there's some things attached. So,
yes, ma'am.
Any board members have any questions or concerns?
Yeah, I did. Well, first of all, I do actually have a psychology degree. And so because of that, I'm very particular
What a
about
job?
Modern psychology. I don't have a doctorate.
Oh.
But I don't necessarily think that modern psychology has the answers that we need any more than I think that the well-meaning programs like needle exchanges and various other strategies about addiction recovery that we've heard several times from the health department, for instance, are necessarily the way to go. On page 2 of the ESA, I noticed that it is an example of financial backfilling, and there's some other better word for that. I can't remember what it is. And it grows government and duplicates services by the Sheriff's Department, so it seems.
May I answer that, ma'am?
Certainly. If he made it into a question. And
well, is it a question?
It's a question. Respond all you want, Madam Clay.
Sir, the Sheriff Department does not work with the schools. Anytime you have a special needs student, a psychologist has to sign the IEP. That has nothing to do with the Sheriff's Department. You have to have a psychologist, you have to have a special needs person, et cetera, to sign these different forms. Every school usually has to have at least one, but a lot of schools don't have. Just like with me, we have special needs students in the jail. We have to, we hire a psychologist outside of the jail, of course, and we pay her by the hour. By law, by statute, you have to have a psychologist to look at all the records and then to help establish some sort of educational plan for that student. That is by law. The Sheriff Department cannot do that.
Does the Sheriff Department have anything to do with the jail and the juveniles?
Not, well, we work together, but the schooling, that's my job. The schooling and any special needs and mental health, that's my job when it comes to the students.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Comments or questions, Ms. Judd?
I would like, I don't really have a question, but I'd like to say that I, in my experiences in the schools, school psychologist has been someone that you talk to initially when your child has like a disability, and then that is what Miss Clay is saying, that it goes on to being part of the IEP. That all that consultation is really important. So this is a different level than I think that Supervisor Crosby is thinking of as psychologist. But anyway, I appreciate what you're doing, and I know our schools appreciate it. I've even reached out to a few of them that you mentioned the other day, and I like it. I think it's a good thing.
Okay. We had one person with a speaker request form mentioned agenda item 13 and wanted to have their name read in opposition to item 13. And that person is Jenny Walston. Don't know the community, only a street address, but the person wanted it read that they were in opposition. It was on a speaker request form. So we have the information from Ms. Clay. We have the agenda item. We have a motion and a second. Is there anything else that needs to be discussed before I call for the vote? Hearing none? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. All those opposed, nay?
Nay.
So that there's one nay, two ayes. It's still approved and so ordered. Thank you, Ms. Clay.
Thank you.
And good luck with the program. Item number 14. Teresa, you're back again. We should have put all three of yours together, shouldn't we?
Well, I was going to talk to Tim about it.
Yeah.
So I'm here to present our fiscal year 23 juvenile state approved budgets. It's the same thing as our yearly funding that we get through the AOC, the Administrative Office of the Courts. It's the same funding every year, just again, different amounts.
Okay. Could we have a motion, please, and then some discussion?
Feeling better. I'll second it.
Take it. Madam Chair.
What did she say?
I don't know.
Okay, it wasn't the motion. Go
Okay.
ahead. I just want to make sure she hadn't already made it.
I move we approve fiscal year 22 through 2023 juvenile probation funding agreement as provided by the Arizona Supreme Court Administrative Office of the Courts, AOC, effective July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023 in the amount of $885,027.
And now I second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Now, Teresa, I don't think that she has any additional information except what's in the motion. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Anyone have any questions about this?
No.
Want to always give the opportunities. So we have a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Chair votes aye, and it's unanimous and so ordered. Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Krawatschka, because of the lateness, I'm going to ask that you too keep it, simple. Some of us are tired and hungry, and we have meetings all afternoon, so we need a break here. So,
Douglas
your report.
Douglas Road Yard, complete. BDI, to be determined.
No, not much information there. Okay, summary of current events. Mr. Crosby.
I'll pass.
District 2 current events. I will pass. District 3.
I have none. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Then the next meeting is at 11. Not next week, but this morning. So as you can see, we're going to have to change the time on that, at least for those of you that are here, so you'll know. When can we set it for? What's the next meeting that we have?
We have a meeting at 1:30, so the 11 o'clock meeting, if it could start relatively soon. I do have a few people who will be speaking at it who have meetings at 1.
So if we have the next meeting on ARPA funding at 1,
A little bit before 1 would be preferred.
12:30? Okay. All right, put it in the record then that we've set the next meeting for 12:30 and it will be on the ARPA funding. So having said that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much.